I'm your host, Hope. Welcome to another episode of the Hope Akedika show, where we leave no rocks unturned. We talk all things personal and public because we need to have these conversations, get into these discussions about things that matter, things that affect us on our day-to-day basis, and what we see happening in society, things that need to be dealt with. And the only way to deal with it is to be able to publicly speak about it without feeling censored. And ironically, freedom of speech has been one of the things that has been challenged this week in the UK due to the talk of transgender at the University of Cambridge. However, that is not on my list of conversation today because, there's a lot to unravel there and we're not quite there yet. We're not ready to unpack into that conversation just yet. But on a lighter note, let's welcome to the summer. Like, it's June. We are halfway through the year now. It's 2023 it just started. What is going on, guys? Like, we have actually gone through 2023 together, and that is it's so emotional to me because, like, wow, I can't believe it. We are here together and we've been conquering 2023 together. Okay, we've been climbing this hill together. We've been facing the hits together, and that's what we're all about at the end of the day, to create this environment, a conducive space where we can all come together and just speak on things that matter. Speaking of something that is infiltrated our society at the moment is shoplifting, to the extent June. Yeah, hopefully we get to experience the sun and experience the joy of summer, and we are being told of heat waves to take place, which that is the only time I actually feel hot in this country. And obviously heat waves are not all great because they do have it's extreme weather. It's extreme weather, and obviously extreme weather comes with its harm to society, to the people, to nature, but hopefully we experience the kind of heat wave that just causes us to feel warm and nothing more than that. Let's get into our first conversation, which is shoplifting. As I mentioned earlier, steak, cheese are being fitted with security tags and coffee being replaced with dummy jars as supermarkets battle shoplifting. And let's just watch this video quickly that speaks on shoplifting. Right. So obviously shoplifting a lot of the time is associated with somebody who is shoplifting for their own benefit, right? Who is shoplifting to feed themselves or to get, young people have been accused of shoplifting for sanitary items such as pads because, there's that deprivation poverty there that we experience across the board across the UK. And in this particular incident, it's obviously something that's been going on for a while. And incidentally, I would say it's been at least a couple of months since I saw a video circulating on TikTok of a homeless person selling salmon fish on the street. And the person who was recording was like, I'm actually considering buying this because it's so much more expensive in the shop and he's selling it for half the price. And to think that this is something that is ongoing across the UK to the extent that it's become national news, it's actually very concerning. Apologies for that. But in the video, essentially what was being spoken about was how shoplifting is being done to cater to local businesses. So people are going into supermarkets, for example, to steal meat and then selling it to pubs and other places that, they provide services where they sell that stuff, whether it's cooked in a restaurant environment or whether they're selling it themselves. And my thing is, I don't know, this is just my thought pattern, how I think. If people are selling these things to, I don't know, local pubs, let's say, because no company or organization has actually been named, just due to, we don't want to defamatory of something that is not certain. So allegedly selling this to pubs, that means that there's a demand and a supply there. People have seen that there's a need and they've taken advantage of that, right? So if pubs are even struggling to get meat from the right way through butchers and through farms, then clearly they're also struggling financially because of the cost of living crisis, to the extent that they've resorted to taking or buying stolen meat. And the annoying thing is, the story that this supermarket is based on is Waitrose, and Waitrose is a high value supermarket in the UK. The only people who go there have, essentially can afford it. It's not the place you go if you're trying to save or buy smart, or where you have to calculate your groceries on how much you spend. You're more likely to go to Asda or Sainsbury or Tesco, whichever one works best for you. But the first place you're not going to go is Waitrose. It's just, I don't know if that's the marketing strategy, but for me it's just a bit off. Obviously shoplifting is bad, it should not be condoned, and it's being argued that there should be harsher punishments for shoplifting in the UK. And also another thing that was referenced in the video was San Francisco, where apparently they don't pay attention to shoplifting items under £1,000. And I'm like, is San Francisco the place where everything goes? Because every time you hear something in America that's out of the ordinary, it's mostly San Francisco. That's the topic. Sorry there, guys. Just a bit of a glitch in the system. But yeah. Let me know, guys. Do you believe that there should be harsher punishments? Like, what is actually the solution to this? Because arguments that are being put forward are saying that this is not a result of cost of living crisis. It's just criminals taking advantage of a situation, and police should tackle these matters more harshly. People should be jailed and should be put in jail for these things. Or is it to do with the crisis that we're experiencing financially as a country, and something should be done about that to be able to tackle the crime, the increase in crime that we're seeing? So it's very complicated. It's not complicated. Stealing is wrong. However, people are feeling like hopeless, I guess, because what else could result in this? What else could result in this becoming such a big market that it's costing markets to go to the extent of putting things away? And how would you feel when you go to the grocery shop and the aisles are empty and everything is in the back and you have to ask for every item that you need in a shop? How would that make you feel as a shopper? How would that affect your experience? It's not nice, is it? Let me know if that will affect your experience as a shopper in a superstore. But moving on, guys, let's talk about another thing that could be a result of this cost of living crisis, apparently, in relation, is that children are at higher risk of being exploited due to cost of living crisis. And my thing is, why is this even, hopefully this is not something that is being accepted, and it's something that is going to be tackled hard, because you know how we feel about children here. We do not play about children. We protect children at all costs. We are very pro protection of children and minors. So the correlation between apparently the cost of living crisis and children being exploited is because parents are unable to take time off work. So they're too busy at work to be able to spend time with the kids. So they, within the legal age, they're left at home to their own device to look after themselves, and a lot of the time they're on social media connecting with people all over social media, and that can turn out for them to give out their address or to meet up with people and things like that. And another reason is because apparently social media has become, the only entertainment they have, because they already have that readily available to them, and they're not able to go and do activities out of the house and be with the family and have day outs and things like that. My thing is, we live in a world where stranger danger is no longer something that's happening outside on the street. It's something that's now happening in the home if not monitored appropriately, which is horrendous. It's horrible. And I totally understand this. I have witnessed young people exposing themselves to danger without even realizing it. And ironically, even as a child, this is something I was very cautious of as a teenager, because Facebook came in when I was like 12, 11 years old. That's when I had the interest to be on social media. But I always felt very cautious about how I exposed myself on social media. And even sometimes, even as careful as I thought I was being, I was never careful enough, because once your information is out there, it's out there. And if it should be very much heavily, parents should be on top of that heavily. So please just check their devices, parents. Make sure that you know what they're doing, who they're talking to, because a survey has been done already that young people were being asked in the street about apparently what you're going to do, how you're going to spend your summer. I was like, oh, I've connected with some people online, we're going to meet up. And already that was a red flag that had been raised. This is being done based off the experience we've had with COVID as well, because there was a surge. Remember, we had this conversation very early on at the beginning of the year where there was a surge in child exploitation through social media due to isolation, being left in the home, speaking to people online, finding that as a place of comfort and refuge instead of those personal connections and having those conversations with parents and siblings, being able to entertain each other like, you would. Like, a lot of people who are middle-aged, they'll tell you experiences of their childhood, and a lot of the time was spent with their siblings, their neighbors, their friends. Whereas now, an experience of a young person or a teenager is mostly on their devices, their gadgets, their phone. And yeah, it's a different world that comes with its own dangers. And yeah, protect our children. Just because your child is in the house, unfortunately, does not necessarily mean that they are away from danger, because the thing about people with bad intentions, they find a way around. Yes, guys, it seems like we're having one of those days where we had a few technical difficulties. However, I hope it has not interrupted too much of today's conversation, and you are able to have an insight on what we're talking about today. But finally, in the last 10 minutes before we wrap up, the Met Police are saying that they're going to stop attending 99 calls related to mental health incidents. And I'm sure you guys have probably seen this circulating all over social media. It's made it to some of the biggest blogs online. And police have stated that they want to, or they're going to, effectively stop attending mental health related incidents. And a lot of the people, reading from the feedback in like comment sections and the discussion going on around it, is a lot of people agree. A lot of people feel like the police are not very, they're not trained for these situations anyway, and they don't handle it the best. And ironically, I was talking to some PCO officers, like you know, those police officers who just like watch over neighborhoods. Like you've probably seen them walking around. It's usually the same people. And they said they've had to attend a few like mental health related incidents in the neighborhood, and they are not equipped to respond to these people, because what are they supposed to do? They can't arrest them because they have not committed a crime. They're having maybe a mental breakdown, or a mental health related panic attack, or something along those lines. And they're unable to, maybe they're sat there talking to them and trying to calm them down, to those who give them the time of day, of course. Yes, guys, again, sorry. Today's episode has been disrupted by technical difficulties. Sometimes technology works with you, sometimes it works against you. Nobody knows why. You know, maybe once has consciousness, it will be able to explain to us why that happens. But as I was saying, the police are doing a job that is not necessarily in their criteria, and is not in their, they're not trained for this, because you need to be equipped. This is essentially a therapist's job, or a mental health doctor or nurse's job. And equally, we already know our healthcare system is under a lot of pressure. And relating back to last week's story that we spoke about, there are people being kept in the NHS hospitals, especially children in children's unit, when they need to be in mental health homes related services. However, that is, for some reason, there seems to be like a gap in the service. There needs to be a system that is fully functional outside of charity organizations who deal with mental health awareness, because a lot of these charities start with people who who have, you know, who have been inspired due to their own experiences or somebody close to them, and it inspires them to be able to start these charitable organizations to help people with mental health and mental health awareness. Especially in the COVID period, we saw a lot of these charities really helping a lot of people, and it's great. But they're charities, and a lot of them are working tirelessly with not a lot of support and help, especially from, you know, the government. So this is something that needs to be taken up in government, to create a service that helps people with mental health needs, not the hospital, not the police, but just for them. You know, that makes sense for them, because clearly there's a lot of people struggling mentally, and they don't know who to call, because who do you call when you're in that situation, you know? And I'm sorry, I don't really necessarily like the American system, because way too many people have been sanctioned. Like, especially through, you hear people's stories on TikTok, like, I went through a mental breakdown and I got sanctioned. Like, as soon as they experience something related to their mental health, they get sanctioned, put into a psych ward or something like that. And not to generalize, but a lot of people have shared this story, and it's a very normal and common thing in the American system. I don't wish that for Britain. I don't wish that, because I don't know. A lot of people say they've had to, like, because of how bad it was in there, they chose to just try and make themselves appear as if they were better, just so they could get out, because if anything, that institution was making them worse. And there's, even here in the UK, there have people who have been sanctioned have said similar things, because there's just no in between, the service that actually balances out all the other services, that's not too extreme, or that is not able to actually provide any help or support. I hope that makes sense, guys. I really hope that makes sense, because unless it's just me, I'm just, you but I genuinely believe that something could be done a lot better, because there's way too many people struggling with their mental health, and we need a better service provided for those people that actually caters to their needs. But guys, thank you so much for joining me today, and I apologize for all the technical difficulties that we've experienced today. However, we will do our best to counteract them and improve our services for next time, obviously. But for today, thank you so much for joining me, and have a lovely evening.